When you're studying English, do you use a dictionary? If you do, what kind of dictionary do you use? I think the first kind of dictionary that most people get is a bilingual dictionary, your language and English. So this could be a Japanese English dictionary or a Spanish English dictionary, and they are really good for beginner students because you have a lot of basic level vocabulary that you need to learn. But once you get beyond that early beginner stage, I really encourage you to start using English dictionaries. I am constantly trying to get my students to use English dictionaries, and I'd like to explain some reasons why I think it's such an important transition. My name is Colin. I'm an English teacher in Tokyo, and in these videos I try to give you some tips and advice to help you on your English learning journey. The English dictionary that I often recommend to my students is the Oxford Learner's Dictionary. This is a dictionary that's available for free online. You can also get an app for your phone or for your iPad, but that is a paid app. It's not cheap, but I think it's good value if you're a serious learner. One of the reasons I like the Oxford Learner's Dictionary is it's got so much detail in it, but also details that a learner would find useful. So obviously you have the words, the word class. So is it a verb? Is it a noun? Is it an adjective? But you also have things like pronunciation. So it's really nice to be able to hear the word that you are learning. Sometimes English words have a very strange pronunciation compared to their spelling. So it's always important to check the pronunciation. You can also find synonyms. So these are words that have a very similar meaning, and antonyms. These are words that have an opposite meaning. So it's really useful to be able to understand how all of these words are connected. One of the biggest advantages of the Oxford Learner's Dictionary is the fact that there is usually lots of good example sentences. So these are sentences that are really helpful for learners because they show you how the word is used. If you are just checking a word in Google Translate, Google is not going to give you many example sentences, if it gives you any example sentences at all. But in the Oxford Learner's Dictionary, there's always maybe 3 or 4 examples of how a word could be used. This is important because sometimes it's not clear how to use a word. So for example, let's think about the word show and the word display. Now, these are similar words, but they are used in very different ways, okay? So, for example, show me your passport or show me your homework, those kind of things. But I wouldn't ask you to display your passport or display your homework. The kinds of things you might display might be a vase of flowers or a piece of art, something that people can see easily, okay? So display and show sound similar, but we use them in very different ways. And the Oxford Learner's Dictionary will give you these example sentences that will make the difference very clear. So with practice using an English dictionary, you start to develop good critical thinking skills. You have to be a bit of a Sherlock Holmes detective because many words in English have many different definitions. So let's take a word like deck, D-E-C-K, deck. Now I gave my students a sentence and I asked them to find a definition for the word deck. And the sentence was, he stood on the deck as the island appeared over the horizon. Now, just for context, the topic of the class was pirates. That was the topic that we were teaching. and that sentence made sense in that context. So what is the word deck? Well, my students went to the dictionary and they saw many different meanings for the word deck. So the first meaning is the outside floor on a boat or a ship, okay? And for this sentence, that was the correct definition. He stood on the deck as the island appeared, okay? The second definition was the outside area, wooden outside area behind a house, maybe in a garden, okay? So it's very common for people to sit on the deck in the summertime, maybe to have a barbecue out on the deck. So those are two different meanings for the word deck. One is on a boat and one is outside somebody's house. A third definition for the word deck is a deck of cards, which basically means a pack of cards. We would call a pack of cards or a set of playing cards a deck of cards. So you see that we need to be thinking and understanding the context of the sentence in order to identify the correct definition. Another thing that you can find in these online dictionaries, these English dictionaries, are idioms. And idioms are interesting because these are words or phrases that are used in perhaps an unusual way. So you look at a set of words, and if you understand each word separately and put them together, you're not going to understand what the idiom means, okay? So let's take the word deck that we had before. There's an idiom, all hands on deck, okay? Now this means everybody's got to help out. Everybody come together and let's work through this situation. So there's a lot of work that has to be done. Okay, all hands on deck. Everybody come here and let's start working through this. But all hands on deck, we know that deck is something to do with a boat. It's the outside floor on a boat. What does it mean, all hands on deck? Well, in the Oxford Learner's Dictionary, it gives you that idiom and it explains what it means. So perhaps in an English-Spanish dictionary or English-Japanese dictionary, they won't take time to explain the details of interesting idioms like this. So to sum up, I think it's a really good idea to start using an English dictionary once you are beyond the beginner level. It will help you understand more English because you're giving yourself the opportunity to read more in English and think more in English. And that is going to help you to be able to write better, to write more clearly and more accurately. So take a look, the Oxford Learner's Dictionary online, give it a go, it's free and you never know, it might help you get to the next level. If you found this video useful, please make sure to like and subscribe, share it with a friend, and I'll see you in the next one.